So here's a problem that I don't know exactly how to solve. I'm not going to tell you what the real problem is, but I'll start off with an example. So, for instance, I grew up playing Nintendo, the NES, Nintendo Entertainment System, and I loved it, and I played it, and I got a Super Nintendo, and then I got a Nintendo 64, and then I got a Dreamcast, and then a GameCube, and then a PS2, and then an Xbox, and so I've been in this progression of like seeing the technology change and get better. And I remember around the time when I was in college, when I was playing Xbox and GameCube, I started working at a summer camp, and there'd be kids playing, and they would be like, "Oh yeah, the new Mega Man game. Let's play in Battle Network." And I was like, "Oh cool, they're in the Mega Man," and so they were playing, and I remember I wore a shirt. It was a Mega Man shirt, the old one. It was like a powder blue or light blue, and then it had just had a picture of like the 8-bit Mega Man standing there like smiling. And I remember I wore that in, and the kids were like, and I wore it in because they were Mega Man fans, and I remember I wore it in. They were like, "What is that? What is that?" And I was like, "That's Mega Man, dude. That is Mega Man." And they're like, "Oh, it looks like he's wearing underwear." And they all the kids were laughing at it. And it's not that I have a complaint against kids. It's just like, think about it. There are some kids that the first video game they will ever play is like on an Xbox One or like a PS4, and they're like, "Wow, look at that game, Call of Duty or GTA or whatever the hell they're playing." Like after playing those games, playing at that height of a level, like how would you ever go back and play like NES or Super Nintendo or even like 64, because like the controls are going to be borked, the graphics don't look as good, save system and all that stuff is archaic. Like how would you ever go back and play any of those games and find any enjoyment out of them whatsoever? It's impossible, right? I have this genius plan of like, when I have kids, I'm going to be like, "Okay, you want to play video games? Sure, here's your NES. You can play that." And then when they play enough of the NES, then I'm like, "Okay, then here's your Super Nintendo." And I'll just like gradually let them get into games until I'll buy them like one of the current updated systems. Just kind of like make them go through like all the gauntlets. But like even me, like I didn't grow up playing Atari. I didn't play grow up playing like the old Commodore or the Atari 26. Like Atari 26, I don't even know how I'd go back and play that, you know, because it's just so simple, and like there's no nostalgia for me in those at all. So I feel like even like me, as as much as I'm trying to pump it up, I've been spoiled to a certain extent. And so the question is like, how do you teach kids in the future not to be spoiled in that way? I'm not talking about like spoiled, like buy them everything, or just saying. I'm just saying, how do you teach them not to be spoiled in that way? Because it's just a product of life. Like I can still remember a time when there wasn't like internet. Let's not even talking about GPS and smartphones and everything. There was like no internet, and I'd just be in the house with no internet and be like, "What are we gonna do today? Go ride our bikes? Go ride our bikes to the comic book store and buy some comic cards?" But like you can't do that now, like you can try to, but it's going to take a massive amount of trying. And the thing about it is like 90% of people won't care. Like 90% of the people are raising their kids to just give them whatever's easiest. Do I want to go into it now? I'm going to go into a different story, but yeah, I mean, it's just, how would you teach your kids the right way? I feel like my parents did a really great job, but I feel like there's nothing I can do to recreate. Like I want my kids to have the experience I had growing up, like with my parents, the way my parents were tough on me, but not only about like like can I recreate it, like because my friends are different than my kids' friends will be one day, right? And then on top of the two, can I even be that like tough? Because my parents were tough, and they're like Chinese tough, which I feel like I can't even be Chinese tough because I was born in America. I'm half Chinese, half American. So it's like, how do I be Chinese tough if like half of me is American? I'm gonna be like half and half already. It's impossible for me to like there's some stuff that my parents, like my dad, did that's so fucked up that like Americans would be like, "What the hell? Like, how could you be that way with your kids?" But I don't know. It made me super pissed off when I was a kid, but oh man, I'll tell these stories in a different video because I feel like I want it to be like an isolated story because it's interesting. But yeah, so I don't know. The reason why I bring this up is because I've met a lot of friends who are not citizens, like they're here just on like school visas, just trying to finish college and then try to find job here and stay here, and like it's great because I can feel like the work ethic and how grateful they are to be here in America because they're like, oh, David, America's so great. I'll never forget the story, but I remember one of these friends of mine. She was here, and I was like, oh yeah, we're driving around. What do you want to do? Oh yeah, hey, you want to get some ice cream? She's like, yeah, sure. I was like, oh, there's a Baskin Robbins here. Let's go to Baskin Robbins. And she was like, Baskin Robbins? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like all my life I've never had Baskin Robbins. And she's like 22, 23, 24 years old. I've never had Baskin Robbins before. I was like, you didn't have Baskin Robbins, like not even Vietnam? She's like, yeah, David, we have Baskin Robbins in Vietnam, but it's considered like a delicacy, like a very, very special occasion that you can afford Baskin Robbins. And I was like, really? It's that expensive? She's like, David, and it's not even that expensive. But it's just like the way stuff is priced. Like it's a luxury item versus like here it's not. Like everybody just go get a $2, $3 scoop of ice cream. But she said like in Vietnam, like the cost of a scoop of ice cream, she could fill up her motorcycle full of gas. And like when you have that kind of like comparison, it's like, well, am I gonna fill up my motorcycle or am I gonna go get a scoop of ice cream? It's a pretty easy decision to make, right? It's not. There's not a lot of complexity to that. It's like that's money we're better well spent somewhere else. So like yeah, we went to Baskin Robbins and it's just like I feel like American kids. I don't know how to pull them out of this tailspin because they're just going down and down. I mean, like kids now, like if you don't have an iPhone or if you don't have a cell phone or the best cell phone, I mean, I can imagine kids throwing tantrums now. Like everybody else has one, how come I don't? Like I read some statistic where like if you're not, even if you're like considered poor or lower class, you at least have one car and a big screen TV and internet and a cell phone or something like that, and that's considered like not a lot of money. So like I don't know, man. It's just myself included. Americans, we're like so spoiled. We have everything and we have all the ability to get anything we want. Like I just don't know what's going to happen in the future. I'm kind of scared, like scared to have kids. I'm scared about the kids in the future. I mean, like I'll make it in my next video, but like when I worked at GameStop, then this was like 10 years ago, 5 years, 8 years ago. Oh no, 10 years ago. Almost 10 years ago now, yeah. But like even when I was working at GameStop 10 years ago, like 10 years ago, I was already seeing signs of like, oh god, the kids are so spoiled now. Like I can't imagine how it is now, like 10 years later with even more stuff coming out. But yeah, I'll record the next video and I'll talk about my stories at GameStop, just stuff I saw. So yeah, see you tomorrow. Bye.